When my daughter told me I was too embarrassing to attend her wedding, I didn't shout, I didn't beg, I just looked at her. The same little girl I once carried on my shoulders to the county fair. The same child I worked double shifts for so she could have new books, new shoes, a future I never had. And she said I didn't belong, not good enough, not her kind of family. Her fiancé's parents nodded their smiles, polished like their silver spoons. They saw me as a stain on their perfect dinner table, a man who fixes engines, a man with grease under his nails. I felt the word slice deeper than any blade, but I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I simply smiled and walked away because they thought they had the power. They thought money made them untouchable. What they didn't know is that every flower, every glass of champagne, every inch of that wedding was mine, paid with my blood, my sweat, my years. And that night, I made a call, a quiet call, one that would turn their dream wedding into ashes by morning. This isn't just a story about rejection. It's about justice. It's about a father who gave everything and decided to take it all back. If you've ever been told you weren't good enough by the very people you sacrificed for, stay with me, because what I did next will make you question what family really means. When I look back, it always starts the same way. Dallas, 1995. A small house on the east side where the air smelled like motor oil and rain on hot pavement. I was younger then, stronger, hands rough from turning wrenches, lungs full of dust from the garage. But every night, no matter how late, I'd come home to one thing that kept me alive, my little girl, Hannah. She'd run to the door in her pajamas, blonde hair tangled from sleep eyes, shining like she hadn't seen me in years. Daddy, you're home. And just like that, the noise of the world disappeared. We didn't have much. Secondhand furniture, a roof that leaked in the spring. Dinner was often beans and rice. But to her, it was a palace. She thought our broken down pickup was a magic chariot. She thought the county fair was Disneyland. I remember one night carrying her on my shoulders. She was 6. She pointed at the Ferris wheel, laughing so loud the whole fairground turned to look. And I swore then I'd give her everything I never had. Every dream. Every chance. I worked 2 jobs, sold the only car Maria left me, took side gigs, fixing busted engines just to pay for her school books. Every penny went to her future. Every hour of my life bent around her smile. Back then, I believed love was enough. I didn't know that love alone could break you. I still remember the first time I stepped into Hannah's new world. It wasn't Dallas anymore. It was Highland Park, polished streets, gates, wrapped in Christmas lights. The kind of neighborhood where even the sidewalks seemed expensive. I parked my old Ford outside their mansion, the truck looking like a beggar among kings. Still, I walked tall. I thought I was here as family. When Hannah opened the door, she was glowing in her new life. Designer dress, sparkling smile. For a second, I believed she was still the little girl who ran to me in pajamas. Dad, she said, her voice warm but rehearsed. Come in, just don't mind the mess. Inside the house smelled of cinnamon candles and polished wood, crystal chandeliers, marble floors. Every corner whispered money. Then Ethan appeared. Perfect suit, perfect jawline, the kind of man who never knew hunger. His parents followed close faces that smiled without warmth. We sat in their living room. Hannah tried to make small talk, but I could feel something tightening in the air. Finally, she said it. Softly, almost careful, Dad. I think it's better if you don't come to the wedding. You just make things harder. The words cut deeper than any blade. I blinked, sure I misheard. What do you mean, I asked. She avoided my eyes. Ethan's mother cleared her throat. Some events require sophistication. I'm sure you understand. I felt my hands go cold. Sitting on their velvet couch, surrounded by everything my money had never bought me, I realized for the first time I was no longer a father. I was a burden. The room went quiet after Hannah's words. My ears rang like the world itself had stopped. Dad, it's just easier if you're not there. Her voice broke as she said it, but Ethan's hand on her shoulder steadied her. His parents watched, satisfied, like a jury passing down their sentence. I tried to breathe. My chest felt heavy. I looked at my daughter, my Hannah, and all I saw was distance. I whispered, after everything I've done for you, I embarrass you. She didn't answer. She just looked away. Then Ethan's father leaned forward, voice sharp but polite, the kind of cruelty money can afford. Mr. Miller weddings are about presentation. You've worked hard, we respect that, but this is not your world. Surely you understand. Respect. The word tasted like poison. Ethan smirked as if I were some child being scolded. His mother added, "Don't take it personally. It's just class." My hands clenched so tight my knuckles turned white. For a second I wanted to scream, break their glass table, show them what a man like me could do. But instead, I stood, slowly, my voice calm, even cold. "I see." And I walked toward the door, each step heavier than the last. Behind me, laughter resumed soft and dismissive, as if I'd never been there at all. Outside, the night air cut sharp against my face. I realized something I'd never allowed myself before. Love wasn't enough. But revenge might be. The drive back to Oak Cliff felt longer than ever. The lights of Highland Park disappeared in my rearview mirror, replaced by cracked roads and old street lamps. The world I belonged to. I pulled into my driveway, the one with weeds growing through the pavement. My house looked tired, just like me. Inside, the silence was heavy. No laughter, no warmth, just the hum of an old refrigerator. I dropped my jacket on the chair and stared at the living room walls. Every picture of Hannah smiled back at me. Graduation birthdays, the first car I bought her. I whispered to the empty room, "Everything I had, I gave to you." The memories hit hard. The second mortgage I took to pay for her college. The overtime shifts I worked so she wouldn't worry about tuition. The car I sold so she could have her dream dress for prom. And now I wasn't good enough for her wedding. I felt my jaw tighten. For years I thought sacrifice was love, but love had turned me invisible. I walked to my old desk in the corner, pulled open a drawer, and took out a worn notebook. Inside were numbers bank records, reminders of every dollar I had poured into her future. I ran my hand across the pages, my voice steady now, not broken. They want to erase me. Fine. But they're about to learn. Some debts don't disappear. For the first time that night, I didn't feel small. I felt dangerous. The night stretched long, but I didn't feel tired. For years, I had been bleeding out my savings, one sacrifice at a time. Tonight, I decided it was time to stop. I cleared my desk and laid out every paper bank statements, mortgage slips, receipts for dresses, tuition checks, even the prom photos where Hannah smiled in the gown I sold my car for. A trail of devotion, a trail of betrayal. I whispered to the empty room, steady now. They built their world on my back. Time to shake the ground beneath them. I opened my old laptop slow and cracked, but it worked. One search after another, Ethan Parker, his business partners, his law firm's reputation, articles about his parents' social circles in Highland Park, every charity gala, every networking event, every name that mattered. The screen glowed in the dark room as I scribbled notes, connections, weaknesses, a web forming in front of me. Ethan's father sat on the board of a Dallas investment group. His mother flaunted charity events for reputation more than kindness. And Hannah, she lived in their house of glass, fragile, expensive, pretending it was hers. I leaned back, the notebook filling with names, dates, amounts. "This isn't just revenge," I muttered, voice low, but sure. "This is justice, and I'll deliver it myself." For the first time in years, I didn't feel broke. I felt rich with purpose. The next morning, I woke before sunrise. The city was still asleep, but I wasn't. Revenge doesn't wait. I sat at my desk, notebook open, and circled the first weak link, Ethan's law firm. Their reputation meant everything, and reputations could crumble. I picked up the phone and dialed a number I hadn't used in years. A man's voice answered raspy from too many late nights. "Robert, it's been a long time." "It has," I said evenly. "I need information. Discreet." He chuckled. "You always did call me when trouble was brewing." By noon, an email arrived with attachments, screenshots, records. Ethan had mishandled client funds. Small mistakes. But in law, small cracks turn into avalanches. I leaned back, staring at the evidence glowing on my old laptop. Proof that the golden boy wasn't golden at all. I whispered to myself, calm and deliberate, "This is how it starts." That evening, I printed the documents, slipped them into an unmarked envelope, and drove to Highland Park. Not to their mansion, no, that would be too obvious. Instead, I slid the envelope under the glass doors of Ethan's firm. By the time the janitor found it, the whispers would begin, and whispers in a place built on reputation are deadly. As I drove away, I didn't smile. I didn't celebrate. I just felt the cold satisfaction of a man who had finally stopped bleeding and started cutting back. 2 days later, the whispers began. I didn't have to wait long. At breakfast, I opened the Dallas Morning News. Page 3. Headline, questions raised about Parker and Lowe's financial practices. No names yet, but I knew exactly whose mistakes were bleeding onto print. I sipped my black coffee steady. This was just the first crack. By noon, my phone buzzed. Rosa, my sister. Her voice rushed through the line. Robert, did you see the news? Isn't that Hannah's fiancé's firm? I let silence hang for a beat before answering. Yeah, it is. Later that night, I parked my truck across from a sleek Highland Park restaurant. Through the glass windows, I saw Ethan at a table with his father. His posture was tight, jaw-clenched hands moving fast as he tried to explain something. His father's face was stone. I rolled down the window just enough to hear fragments when the door opened and voices spilled into the street. You assured me this was under control, his father snapped. Ethan's reply cracked with panic. It's nothing, just rumors. They don't have proof. I leaned back in my seat, invisible in the shadows, and whispered to myself, proof has a way of finding daylight. I started the truck, the engine growling low. I didn't need to see more. The seed was planted, and seeds, when watered by arrogance, always grow into poison. By Friday, the phone calls started. Hannah's number lit up my screen again and again. I ignored the first 3. On the 4th, I answered. Her voice was sharp, almost desperate. Dad, what did you do? Ethan's furious. His firm is in chaos. People are saying dangerous things. I sat in my recliner, letting her panic spill through the line. My tone stayed calm, deliberate. I didn't do anything, Hannah. The truth just has a way of surfacing. She exhaled hard, then snapped. You're ruining everything. Do you even understand this wedding? My life depends on this. I closed my eyes, remembering the nights I'd eaten canned soup while paying her tuition, remembering her smile in the prom dress I couldn't afford. My voice dropped steady as steel. No, Hannah. My life depended on you remembering who stood by you. Instead, you chose to forget. Silence crackled across the line. When she finally spoke, her words cut colder than any knife. You've always been embarrassing. Ethan's family is refined. You don't belong there. I felt the sting, but I didn't flinch. You're right, I said quietly. I don't belong there, and soon neither will you. I hung up before she could answer. My hand was steady, my chest cold. For the first time, I wasn't just fighting Ethan. I was staring at the betrayal of my own blood, and betrayal that personal deserved nothing less than fire. That Sunday, I received an invitation, Hannah's bridal shower. Not from her, she wouldn't dare, but from Rosa, who still believed family meant something. I showed up late deliberately. The banquet hall in uptown Dallas sparkled with chandeliers, white roses, and too much champagne. Everyone was dressed to impress. I was the shadow no one expected. Hannah's smile faltered the moment she saw me. Ethan's jaw tightened. But before either of them could speak, I raised my voice just enough for the room to hear. Congratulations, Hannah. I thought I'd bring a gift. Something more valuable than crystal or cash. Whispers rippled as I pulled a thick envelope from my jacket. I laid copies of Ethan's financial records onto the dessert table right between the cake pops and champagne glasses. Gasps. Silence. Then Ethan's father stepped forward, face drained of color. Ethan, what is this? Ethan stammered, hands shaking. They're lies. Someone's trying to destroy me. I met Hannah's eyes, my voice steady. Not lies. Proof. Proof that you hitched your future to a man already drowning. Her face flushed crimson tears welling. She hissed under her breath so only I could hear. Why are you doing this to me? I leaned closer, cold enough to freeze the air. You did this to yourself when you decided your father wasn't good enough. The room buzzed with judgment, with the sound of reputations cracking. I turned and walked out, leaving them to choke on their own silence. By Monday morning, the storm had broken. The Dallas Observer ran the headline, Rising Finance Star Exposed for Fraud Allegations at Family Event. The article described the bridal shower turned disaster with an unexpected guest revealing damning documents in front of half the city's elite. My phone buzzed nonstop. Old colleagues, neighbors, even strangers. Some laughed, some whispered, but all of them knew the truth. Ethan Parker wasn't untouchable anymore. I sat in my kitchen coffee, hot hands steady. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I felt heard. By noon, a local news station knocked on my door. The reporter, young, eager, eyes sharp. "Mr. Callahan, can you confirm the records shown at the Parker event came from you?" I looked straight into her lens and said, "Calm as stone, I don't create lies. I reveal them. That family built a castle on other people's backs, including mine. And it's crumbling." The clip aired that evening. Social media exploded. Hannah's engagement photos were flooded with comments. Words like fraud, gold digger, liar. Ethan released a statement, defensive and shaky. "These claims are exaggerated. We are victims of a bitter old man with a grudge." But the city wasn't buying it. Truth spreads faster than denial. That night, as I watched the news replay, I whispered to myself, now the world sees them the way I always did. And for the first time, the silence of my home didn't feel lonely. It felt victorious. 3 days after the headlines, there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, Hannah stood there. No makeup, eyes, swollen hair tied back. She didn't look like the polished daughter of uptown Dallas. She looked like the little girl I used to carry on my shoulders at the fair. "Dad," her voice cracked. "Please, I need your help. Ethan's gone into hiding. His firm's collapsing. People are threatening us. I don't know what to do." For a moment, my chest tightened. I remembered birthday candles, scraped knees, her laugh echoing in my truck. But then her words from a week ago cut sharper than memory. "You've always been embarrassing. You don't belong there." I stepped back, letting her inside. She sat on my worn couch, hands trembling. "I made mistakes," she whispered. I thought choosing him meant security, but it was all built on lies. "Dad, I need you." I poured her water, set it on the table, then sat opposite her. My voice was calm but unyielding. "You didn't just choose him. You rejected me, not because of money, but because of pride. You wanted their world more than you wanted your father." Tears streaked down her cheeks. "Can you forgive me?" I leaned forward, my eyes steady on hers. "I forgave you the moment you called me embarrassing, but forgiveness doesn't erase truth. And truth, Hannah, is that you traded family for fantasy, and fantasies always burn." She buried her face in her hands. I didn't move to comfort her. This time she needed the weight of her choices. 2 weeks passed. I thought the storm was over. Then a letter arrived. Thick, official, stamped with the seal of Dallas County Court. My stomach tightened as I tore it open. Inside a lawsuit, Ethan Parker claiming defamation, intentional interference, damages exceeding $500, 000. The words blurred for a moment. My own daughter's fiancé, the same man who drained her dignity and mocked my blood, was dragging me into court. That evening, Hannah called. Her voice trembled, "Dad. Ethan filed something. He says you slandered him, that you'll lose everything." I held the phone tight, my tone flat. "He's desperate. When men like him are cornered, they don't fight with truth, they fight with paper." "Can he win?" she whispered. I looked around my small living room. The stacks of receipts, bank statements, the evidence I'd kept not just for revenge, but for survival. "No," I said, finally steady, "because this time I'm ready." The next morning, I walked into my attorney's office. He scanned the papers, raised an eyebrow, then leaned back with a faint smile. "Mr. Callahan, if they want a war in court, we'll give them one. And I promise you're holding stronger cards." For the first time in years, I wasn't just a father defending his pride. I was a man ready to fight fire with fire. The courtroom smelled of polished wood and old paper. I sat beside my attorney's suit, pressed hands steady. Across the aisle, Ethan Parker strutted in like a man who still believed he owned the world. His smile was sharp, but his eyes restless. The judge entered. Silence. Ethan's lawyer wasted no time. "Your Honor, this man, Robert Callahan, spread malicious lies. He humiliated my client in public, costing him reputation and income." Whispers rippled through the room. I felt every eye on me, waiting to see if I'd break. Then my attorney rose, voice firm. "Lies, let's see what the record says." He placed a thick binder on the table. Bank transfers, mortgage statements, checks with my signature, dated undeniable. Gasps filled the air. Even the judge leaned forward. My attorney continued calm but merciless. Mr. Callahan didn't invent stories. He paid this man's bills hundreds of thousands while being mocked, excluded, and slandered in return. The only fraud in this room is the one sitting at that table. I turned my eyes toward Ethan. For the first time, he wasn't smirking. He looked cornered. The judge rapped the gavel. We will recess. But, Mr. Parker, this court does not look kindly on deceit. As we stood, Ethan shot me a glare meant to intimidate. But I only straightened my tie, leaned close, and whispered so only he could hear. The truth has deeper pockets than your lies. The trial dragged on for weeks, but the outcome was already written the moment truth touched daylight. Ethan's empire crumbled in court, his lies collapsing like rotten beams. Hannah sat in the gallery during the last hearing. Her face was pale eyes downcast. When the judge dismissed Ethan's claims, she looked at me, hope flickering, as if waiting for a signal. But I didn't nod. I didn't smile. Some bridges can't be rebuilt, not after being burned from both ends. That night I drove back through Dallas, past the skyscrapers, where Ethan once strutted past the neighborhoods where Hannah believed status meant safety, and then out to the quiet edges of town where the air smelled like cedar and freedom. My house wasn't much, but it was mine. The lights glowed warm through the windows. Inside a new chapter waited friends who called because they cared, neighbors who waved without judgment, family that didn't share blood but shared loyalty. I poured myself a glass of bourbon, sat on the porch, and watched the Texas stars carve silver lines across the sky. For years, I thought revenge was the destination, but it wasn't. It was only the road. The real destination was freedom from lies, from shame, from the weight of giving everything to people who never valued it. I raised my glass to the night air, to the man I was, to the man I became, and to the man I'll never be again. In the weeks that followed, people asked me if I regretted it, if standing against my own daughter's fiancé, if exposing the truth so publicly was worth the price. My answer was always the same. Regret belongs to those who never fought back. A man can forgive insults. He can endure sacrifice. He can even swallow pride for the sake of peace. But there comes a line carved by blood, sweat, and loyalty that no one crosses without consequence. Ethan crossed it, and Hannah let him. That wasn't just betrayal, it was erasure. They tried to erase who I was, what I gave, and what I stood for. But in the end, the story didn't belong to them. It belonged to me. I learned something in those long nights after court, sitting under Texas skies with nothing but bourbon and silence for company. Revenge isn't about destroying others. It's about reclaiming yourself. And I did. So to every man out there sitting in silence while people bleed him dry, your silence is their weapon. Your dignity is your shield. Don't be afraid to use it, because the day you finally stand, you'll remember what it feels like to be a man again. If my story means something to you, don't just walk away, stay. Subscribe. Share it, pass it on. Somewhere out there, another man is waiting for a sign that it's his turn to rise. And maybe your click is the spark that lights his fire.